In this video, I'm going to discuss the latest application rate for the SBF and BTO July 2025. Of course, we will start with the BTO first, but today let's do something different. Instead of starting with 2-room flexi, let's start with 3-room and bigger flats for BTO application. So for day 5, which is today, interestingly, although the numbers do move a little bit, but the trend is pretty much similar. So for example, Bukit Merah, which is in a mature town, as you can see, the application rate is kind of still underwhelming, especially for 3-room. There's not many applicants there. For 4-room, the application rate for first-timer family is still 1.3, which is I was expecting the numbers to be much higher. I mean, if you see comparing between Bukit Merah and Bukit Panjang, I know both towns started with Bukit, right? But it's completely different. Like one mature town, the other one is far from a central area. But you see the application rate for 4-room first-timer families, both are 1.3, which is indicating the demand is more or less the same, comparable to the number of units. So I find this very interesting. If the numbers continues to be something similar to this towards the closing or towards the end of the sales period, you know, Bukit Merah, you might have a good chance to apply there, because come to think about it, right? It seems like not many people know how to get these statistic for application rate, because it's actually available online. And then not many people probably watch this channel as well. So it looks like people just, you know, anyhow apply. If that's true, yeah, if you are interested in mature town, Bukit Merah might be something that you can consider. Next, let's talk about Clementi Emerald, which is another prime project. Yeah, I think this is a consistent trend, whereby for prime project, typically not many people applying for 3-room because it's too small and it doesn't cater to different life stages, so I understand. But interestingly, the 4-room here, the application rate is much higher versus Bukit Merah. Initially, I thought it would be more neck to neck. I do personally like Clementi Emerald better, but I wasn't expecting the application rate to be so much different, right? As you can see, Bukit Merah is 1.3 for first-timer families 4-room, but Clementi is 2.1, so it's quite significant. Comment down below, guys, why do you think Clementi is getting a much higher application rate versus Bukit Merah? I want to know, what do you think? Okay, next we have Sembawang Beacon. I think there's not much to highlight because the application rate is more or less as per expected. I think the only thing that I've noticed is that the 5-room and 3-gen application rate for Sembawang Beacon is really low. It hasn't picked up at all. So I wonder whether this means that there's not many interest for 5-room or 3-gen in a non-mature town. I'm curious how come it's so low. Is it because of pricing issue or what? Because I always thought that people typically would just aim for 5-room if it's available. So I find it interesting that 4-room is more highly sought after versus 5-room for Sembawang. I think that's the only thing that I'm curious about when I see this statistic. Okay, next we have Tampines Symphony, which seems to be other people's favorite, even though it's not mine. We can see that the application rate for 4-room is already 4.7, for 5-room is 5.6, which is very high. For comparison, Clementi was 2.1 for 4-room flat, first-timer families, and for Bukit Merah, it was 1.3. So indeed, Tampines numbers, this is really high. I think as many of you commented on my previous videos, it seems like people love Symphony because it's still categorized as standard, and then so it only has 5-year MOP, and then you can fully rent out the whole flat after MOP, and then there are several business hubs and also close to Changi Airport, so it should be easy to rent out the place. So probably that's the reason. I think another reason is the limited amount of units, because if you compare it just between Tampines Symphony and Toa Payoh, right? You see for 4-room, in Symphony, it only has 140 units because of the height restrictions. I think the block was only like maximum like level 11 or something. For Toa Payoh, there are 468 4-room flats, so the supply is much higher. Yeah, so that's about Tampines Symphony. Okay, let's move on to Toa Payoh SN. So the trend continues to hold, where I'm actually also surprised that significantly more people are interested to Toa Payoh even versus Clementi or Bukit Merah, because initially I thought between Bukit Merah, Clementi, and Toa Payoh, the number should be neck and neck, but apparently it's not. So even if you see the number of applicants, right, already beyond 2,500 for the number of applicants who are applying for 4-room in Toa Payoh SN, even though it's prime, you see even the 3-room already so many people applying here. Please comment down below, why do you think so many people are drawn to Toa Payoh SN even versus Clementi or versus Bukit Merah? Let me know what you think. For Woodlands, I think not much to highlight as well. The numbers are still pretty much as expected. Okay, now let's move to 2-room flexi. If we look across different projects, for seniors, I think if you really want to get a flat, trying at Sembawang would be your best bet right now, because in Sembawang, the application rate is less than 1. If you want mature town, I think your best bet would be Bukit Merah. For first-timer singles, if we look at the application rate across the board, I don't recommend to apply to Tampines simply because the application rate right now is already beyond 33, which is crazy. This number probably would continue to climb. For first-timer singles, even though the chances are very limited regardless of which project you apply to, but statistically you probably would be able to score much better either in Sembawang, Bukit Merah, or Clementi. Okay, let's move on to 2-room flexi application rate for Toa Payoh and Woodlands. The trend is actually still consistent with what we've seen in past days, where there are quite a lot of interest for Toa Payoh SN. So this is something that you can think about again, whether you really want to apply to Toa Payoh SN or you want to consider other projects. Looking at these numbers, it still holds. If you want mature town, seems like your best bet would be Bukit Merah across the board, regardless whether you want 2-room flexi, 3-room, or 4-room. Seems like Bukit Merah is actually the best bet right now. For Woodlands, yeah, I think nothing to highlight. This is still consistent with past days numbers. Okay, next let's move on to SBF application rate, starting with 3-room and bigger flats. So for Ang Mo Kio, as you can see that for 3-room is 0.6, for 4-room 1.3, 5-room 1.4. So again, the number is pretty consistent with yesterday's number. I don't see any significant jump so far. I don't know, maybe the numbers will be significantly different towards the end of the application period. Maybe there are quite a lot of people who are just waiting towards the closing of the sales period just to put in their application maybe. Okay, so for Bedok, as we can see here, interestingly, the application rate is still under 1, which is quite surprising. If you haven't had the chance, please check out my other videos that is discussing about hidden gems and best deals for mature town, because Bedok is actually one of them, because there are a couple of projects which are still under construction and still have leftover units. And so that's why the supply for 4-room is actually quite high. You see, the supply is 214, but then not many people apply to it. So this is something that if you are keen to own a house in mature town, please consider Bedok. I think this is one of the options that you can consider. Now for Bishan, as you can see, the supply is limited. So these are mostly repurchased flats or people who cancel their application, but not much. I think for Bishan, because it's a mature town, if you have a high percentage of repurchased flats, there's a high chance if you get a terrible queue number, then you would either need to pick either a very old flat or take the penalty. So Bishan in this SBF is not something that is desirable, I would say. Okay, next we have Bukit Batok, Bukit Merah, Bukit Panjang, and Central. From my end, there's nothing to highlight. Okay, next up we have Choa Kang. So Choa Kang is one of those areas that do have projects which are still under construction but somehow still have leftover units. So if you really want a house and you like Choa Kang area, you might want to consider this because the application rate is still very low, so you still have a very good chance for first-timer families. Okay, for Clementi, again, nothing to highlight. Okay, next up we have Geylang. So if you haven't had the chance to, check out my other videos about hidden gems for SBF. And Geylang is actually one of those gems because there's this one particular project called McPherson Blossom in Geylang, where the project is actually already been completed since 2023. So the keys are on hand. You don't need to wait for any construction time. And then they still have a lot of leftover units. Whether it was, I think they have 2-room flexi, 3-room, 4-room, 5-room. So there are quite a lot of options. I think the only issue is that the price is very high. So I will let you watch that other video or go to HDB website to look at the prices by yourself because I don't remember them by heart. But location wise, it is within walking distance to McPherson MRT station, and this project is also only subjected to 5-year MOP, the typical restrictions that we have always known. So if you do have the budget, actually Geylang is one of the options that you can consider, and it seems like not many people know about it because as you can see here, the application rate is still very low. So check out the link in the description box below or in the comment section if you want to see all of my videos about July and also October 2025 BTO exercise. Please take a look there. For Hougang, I don't have anything to highlight. For Jurong East and West, the supply is indeed quite high because there are, again, several projects that are still under construction but still haven't sold out yet. But then, if I remember, the issue was that it was far from MRT station. Yeah, but if you just want a house fast, have something over your head, maybe you can consider Jurong East and West. Okay, next up we have Kallang Whampoa town. Oh guys, again, this is another hidden gem. Looking at these numbers, I feel very itchy, Oh my god, not many people realize that there are hidden gems there, is it? Because here's the trick: when you look at SBF, you pay attention on the amount of supply, because if there are a lot of units, that means they still have a lot of balance from projects that are either still under constructions or newly completed. But this number is very high because there are several projects in the Kallang Whampoa area that haven't sold out yet. I think, if I remember, it was Tentram Vantage, Raja Residences, and Raja Summit. So many. And then in terms of prices, if I remember, the prices are also cheaper versus the McPherson Blossom at Geylang that I highlighted to you before. So this Kallang Whampoa is actually nice because it's mature town. It almost completed, so you need to wait probably about roughly 2 more years. And then prices, it's not so crazy. Indeed, you would need to rely to feeder buses. But then nowadays, it's very difficult, right? In reality, if you want mature town, close to MRT station, and then in pristine condition, and it must be cheap, whatever, it doesn't exist. Like, you need to pick whether you want a great location or budget friendly. It feels to me that's the choices that we have to make nowadays, right? So if you haven't applied yet, please, seriously, why don't you at least take a look at Kallang Whampoa SBF? Dude, the application rate is still 0.3 for first-timer families. You still have a good chance. Please take a look if budget permits. This is probably one of the best-kept secret in this SBF launch. Next up, for Pasir Ris and Punggol, nothing to highlight from my end. Okay, next up for Queenstown. Okay, so Queenstown is interesting because even though the amount of supply is not that big, when I double check, actually, probably like half of the supply of this is coming from Queensway Canopy, which is a project that is almost completed, and it's in a mature town, and it's only 5 years MOP, It's standard, classified as standard, and the project across it is already having 10-year MOP already. So if you see the application rate is still 0.4, this is another town for you to consider. What I haven't checked is what is the proportion in Queenstown between the older repurchased flats versus the newer under construction flats. So that is something that you would need to do the due diligence by yourself lah, because at the end of the day, I can only share my opinion, and again, I have no qualification to advise anyone for anything. So, but this is something that it's worth taking a look at, especially if you are looking for a place in a mature town. Next, for Sembawang, Sengkang, Serangoon, and Tampines, yeah, I don't have any opinion about it. I'm just showing you the numbers. Feel free to pause and take a screenshot if you want this data. Okay, next up we have Tengah. So Tengah also still have quite a lot of supply for projects that are still under constructions. You see the application rate is also still very low. But then again, it's a trade-off, right? Whether you want to live in Tengah or not. I do believe that in the long haul, Tengah would be a great town in the future. But indeed, for the meantime, you just have to bite the bullet, right? With all of the construction noise and the inconveniences at the moment. But yeah, if you play the long game, probably within 10 to 15 years, Tengah would be a great place to live. Next, Payoh and Woodlands. Yeah, nothing to highlight from my end. For Yishun, I also don't have anything to highlight. Okay, next up, let's move on to the 2-room flexi SBF flats application rate. So maybe in a glance, what we can see for 2-room flexi from Ang Mo Kio to Choa, as you can see, the number of supplies are limited. There's not much to consider. Now Geylang again, the McPherson Blossom also have 2-room flexi if I'm not mistaken. So I think the bulk of the supply came from there. For singles, as we can see, the application rate is already very high. For Geylang is already 95.5. For Hougang is already 144. So yeah, I feel your pain for singles. I hope the government will do something about this, and hopefully the government will be able to find more ways to help singles. Please do stay tuned for my review for the October 2025 BTO, because it seems like the government actually allocated more 2-room flexi in the upcoming October BTO. So that's interesting. So stay tuned for that video. I'm currently still doing my research and doing some editing. So when the video is ready, I'll release it as soon as I can. Okay, last but not least would be the application rate for SBF community care apartments. Yeah, I don't even know like how many people who apply for CCA actually watches the video. I don't think so. But anyway, these are the numbers. I wish you all the best in your BTO and SBF application. Hopefully, you'll get the house of your dream. If you want to know the latest application rate, come back again to this channel tomorrow. To get exclusive contents and support my work, click the join button to be part of the online family. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Don't forget to join the membership, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye bye!